we have the New York Knicks. They are right outside of the eighth spot. How do you feel about them this season? And do you think that they are a real contender for a spot in the playoffs, or are they just the same old Knicks that we've known um, these past few years?
Um, I definitely think that they're not the same old Knicks, but at the same time, I don't think the Knicks, as they were constructed for most of the season, meaning without Derrick Rose, the recent addition would be playoff bound. Because what I see is a team full of guys who are long, athletic, and switchable with a coach who preaches defense and effort. And those two things generally mix together well if, like I said, you get the coaching right, get the IQ, the philosophy down, and then you just combine that with effort, you'll have a good defensive team because they simply had the personnel. Mitchell Robinson is still filling out, and this year he looks a lot more stronger and under control than he has in past years. He used to be one of the highest fouling players in the league, but he's actually lowered that down to only 3 personal fouls per game, which is good. And I think that's just the added core strength, the added weight to keep him more stable so he's not so off balance when he goes to jump to block shots. But he's a freak athlete. You got Julius Randle, who can play the 4, the 5, and the 3, and add playmaking at that position. You got Nerlens Noel, who you can put in there, who's also a mobile, springy, active sort of player. You got RJ Barrett, who's very tall, strong, athletic player, and Elfrid Payton, and depending on the day, um, I'll say throw Alec Burks, or you can throw quickly hasn't started, but you see what I'm saying. You have options as far as who you kind of want to, what type of lineups you want to throw out there defensively. Reggie Bullock, things like that. So I think that that's basically why I think they're a lot better this year is because number one, Mitchell Robinson put on some extra weight to calm down on all that fouling and be more like just solid, more of a hands up defender. Although he's not, but compared to what he was, he's come a long way. And Thibodeau, just kind of like a no nonsense coach that is you either get with it or get left behind. So I think that that's resulted in a much better team. But at the same time, obviously the offense didn't talk about that. The main problem I see with the offense is just simply no spacing. I mean, people go under ball screens no matter who it is, whether it's um, I mean, I can't think everybody I just named pretty much they go under the ball screen. And outside of that, it's just post ups for Julius Randle, who is a decent playmaker, but definitely not. Okay, don't get me wrong, he's actually a good playmaker, but he's not good enough to the point where you can just run him in an offense like that with like little spacing and then have him flourish. He would need more spacing, in my opinion, to really take advantage of all that. So basically, it's just a matter of trying to, like I said, find what they need to do to ignite the offense. They're thinking about maybe starting quickly, possibly some games. Now you got D Rose, so I mean, who knows? But that's the main difference I see.
For me, it actually starts from the top. The organization as a whole seems a little different. It seems like they're running things a little different. Leon Rose, he's the president of basketball operations, and I believe World Wide West is working with them as well. I feel like those two have put together a good plan to move on in the future. Tom Thibodeau has came in and done a great job with the team there, and looking at them play, it seems like they're really focused on defense, and I feel like that sense of pride, that sense of togetherness, and that sense of something that these last few years is they have what has turned it around for them. Um, I think all the points you brought out about Mr. Robinson and the players they have there, working on their game, working on their bodies, and doing stuff like that has helped. But I feel
Mhm.
like when it comes down to on the basketball court, I think it comes from Tom Thibodeau and his uh, toughness and his defense. I think that's what has changed it. Now, in terms of them making it to the playoffs, I think that they have a shot at making the eighth seed, or maybe at best the seventh. I think it will be tough. You still have Miami, who hasn't really found their footing. Yeah, you have Atlanta. The Hornets have been playing very well. Indiana's in the sixth seed. And then you have also Chicago, who's actually playing pretty good this year. I think they're one of the teams that could possibly sneak in. So I think that they have a shot. Um, right now, I'm not too sure exactly what I would think if they would get in or not yet. I kind of want to see a little more from them and some other teams this season. But I definitely give them a shot. And you brought it up, that acquisition of Derrick Rose. I feel like that's going to help them a whole bunch. That's what you and me have talked about the Knicks off camera, and we said that really all that they're missing is a perimeter threat. Somebody to create on the perimeter. They got the defense. They've I think they're like what, top five in defense this season or something like that. So they have that side. They just were not good at putting the ball in the basket. They struggled doing that in quite a few games. So I think the acquisition of Derrick Rose definitely has them as a legit contender for a playoff spot, to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think with Derrick Rose, it gives you a little bit of freedom because what that allows you to do is essentially run him at the one and put lineups where if you want a more of a dynamic lineup with the offense and kind of have Nerlens Noel or have him and Julius Randle run a small ball lineup, um, or something like that, and basically put Alec Burks at at the three, and then you could do lineups like if you wanted to do Derrick Rose, quickly Burks, just more overall scoring. Because I feel like the good part about that is Alec Burks has been absolutely knocked down as far as catch and shoot this year, and Reggie Bullock has been good as well. Not quite as good as Burks, but I do think that he's also been good. And then now that you have your kind of spot up guys, catch and shoot guys, now you can put in a guy like Derrick Rose to where if you have him and another guard like quickly, what that'll allow you to do is not necessarily just suffocate one side of the court. Because what they tend to do now is when Julius Randle has the ball, everybody kind of goes and kind of compacts onto that side of the court and just kind of forces him to pass it. And sometimes he'll finish through the contact. But now that Derrick Rose is there, now you can swing it to him. He can knock down the shot, but he can also make a play for someone else. And it can continue to make their offense more dynamic because they don't really have a super movement heavy offense. But I think that when I say added movement, I just mean the fact that now, like I said, you can go from a post up into a kick out into another pick and roll, whereas before it would just be a post up into typically like a forced late clock or late shot clock heave type, lightly contested shot. So I just feel like Derrick Rose, you can't suffocate one side of the court so much because of his ability to just get to the rim, hit shots, and make plays.
It's gonna in the East. It's going to be interesting to see, and that's something that we really haven't had to say about the Eastern Conference in quite some time. As far as the full depth of that whole conference. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and looking forward one step further, I think really what the Knicks need to do in the next coming months, whether that be after the season, whether or not they make the playoffs, I don't know. So whenever their season ends, one thing I think they should definitely try to acquire is a guy that you can't go under screens on, a guy that can hit shots, but also make simple reads out of the pick and roll. I feel like that's really what's gonna keep them as a playoff lock, and then they can move forward and see, okay, now how can we try and go farther and become like conference finals caliber team, because I feel like Mitchell
Yeah.
Robinson, with that athleticism
Yeah.
he's still learning to control it. But if you give him, like I said, a point guard where now they have to go over hard on everything that can make simple reads. Like Fred VanVleet is another guy, but I don't know what the Knicks are going to do in the offseason. I don't know really what their financial situation is, and that's another story for another day. But I feel like that's really what's going to make or break them based off of the personnel they have. When Derrick Rose, it's funny because Derrick Rose actually went to the Bulls I forgot what year he got drafted, so I'm not going to say it, but I think it was like 2010, 2009. And they were
Yeah.
like that too. They were a defensive heavy team with guys who
Mhm.
really couldn't shoot from the perimeter. Like I believe it was like Dang, Heinrich,
Yeah.
Noah.
Noah,
Was it
Joakim
Gibson? Was
Noah,
Gibson there?
and Boozer. Was Boozer on that team? Oh, Gibson. Yeah.
Gibson.
Did Boozer play that?
I'm not 100% sure on that team, but I know it was a lot
Nah,
of
I don't. Yeah.
defenders, a lot of good defenders.
Yeah.
They just
Wait, no, Boozer didn't play that.
I'm not sure, man, but all I know is it was a defensive
Okay.
heavy team, and they were really good on defense. Kind of like probably, I would say better than the Knicks are right now on defense. They were really good on defense because Noah,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, is just a better defender than what I just say, Mitchell Robinson. And I feel like Dang, when he was younger, was a better defender than RJ Barrett or Julius Randle. So, I mean, I just thought they were a very good defensive team, but they just needed an offensive guy to kind of get them to the playoffs. And then Derrick Rose filled that role. And now, if you look at it, he's back to another team that lacks offense and desperately.
Tom Thibodeau was the coach of those Bulls teams, correct?
See,
And he was also a coach in Minnesota, right? When Derrick Rose went there too, right? Or was that after? I think that was after.
I'm not sure, man. But I do think, yeah, he was Derrick Rose's coach. Yeah, he in
Yeah.
Chicago.